Hi there guys, making some content here that literally nobody requested. This is the Pod 2. Now I used to own one of these and I gigged one pretty extensively, but I haven't plugged one in for about 15 years. But I found out a friend of mine had one, so I asked to borrow it, and I gotta say I'm pleasantly surprised. I remembered it as being a pretty good sound, but having plugged it in again, I'm starting to question how far we've actually come with modelling gear. These sounds hold up just fine to me. So I thought I'd come up with two sounds for this video. I don't want to make it into a really extended sort of, in-depth review of something that's been out for 23 years. But yeah, I thought I'd come up with two sounds. The first was going to be entirely in the box, and the second was, I could use other things. I could use pedals in front of it. I was thinking about using an impulse response after it, actually, and sort of disengaging the cab modeling element and seeing what it sounds like into a modern IR, which is a video I think I'll make. In the event, I didn't do that for this because, it sounded great just as it was. So the first sound was the Line 6 Crunch using the first of the 4x12 cabinets where you go around the dial clockwise, and the internal Leslie Sim. The second of the two sounds was the big slide sound, and for this I used my J-Rocket Archer going into the front end of the pod. I wanted to know how well it could handle the overdrive, but you also got to figure that in this era, you didn't actually have overdrive models. You had a boost thing that you could engage. Basically, you hold the tap tempo down, and if you turn the drive knob up past 12 o'clock, it would kind of boost the volume coming off your pickup, and thus you're hitting the front end of the amp harder, and it would drive more. They described it as being like an overdrive pedal with the gain turned down, the volume turned up. But of course what you don't get is the shape of the EQ coming off the pedal. So some kind of a tube screamer or a Klon would have a little bit more mid-range to it. You wouldn't get that using the internal sort of drive boost. But that's what I wanted to do because, like some of these patches are a little bit mid-light. Very of the era, very of the nu metal era, which was around at that time. You obviously had a very Pro Tools sound to a lot of recordings, which was kind of scoopy, a little bit boxy, and this is sort of indicative of that kind of era. But with a little bit of a boost from a pedal, you get that mid-range snortiness that you get off a tube screamer or a Klon. It's a really usable drive sound. I'm using the delay in here, but I also used the slap echo, which was a stereo slap in Cubase and some stereo wideners, so it's made it sound super wide. I did record everything in stereo, but to make it sound that wide, I've used a plugin. I will say with both of the sounds, there's really no EQ. I've taken out a little 300 because 300 tends to get a bit woofy when you pile a lot of things in a mix. But outside of that, there's no real EQ going on here. 40 quid. Literally 40 quid on eBay. You'll pick one up all day, every day. Against, 400 at the minimum, up to 1,500, 2,000 for a modern, sort of more complex modeling device. They would have to go some to beat that. I mean, it can't just be better. It's got to be a lot better when you're talking about that kind of a price range. The user interface couldn't be more simple. Incredibly intuitive and a major selling point to me. I don't tend to judge a modeling device on whether the JTM 45 sounds exactly like a real JTM 45 or whether the Twin sounds like a Twin. I just kind of turn the dial until I find something that I like. It might as well be numbered 1 to 10 for me, and I'll just have amp 7 with cab 5 is my preference. And I don't care whether it would be gear that I would use in real life. I mean, if the smoothest sound is an AC15 with a metal muff going into it, then so be it. I don't really pay much attention to the name on the dial. I just go by the sound. It's still a cool device after all this time. 23 years is a long time in the digital world. But I think the sounds hold up pretty damn well. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Later.